Hey guys, how's it going? This is Levi Heaton III. What's up? ¿Qué onda? Me llamo Levi Heaton III. Assalamu alaikum. It's me, Levi Heaton III. I just wanted to make this video because the last few days there's been a lot of, hashtag justice for Johnny Depp. And I'm actually really glad to see that because in my opinion, as an actor and as a creator, Johnny Depp's the greatest actor that has ever walked the face of the earth. It's pretty close between Johnny Depp and Tom Hanks, in my opinion, as a professional actor. But the title goes to Johnny Depp, and I really felt like there was some fishy stuff going on with all this abuse stuff. You know, 2-3 years ago when it first came out, when they got divorced, and when Amber Heard started saying all this stuff about Johnny Depp. And then suddenly Johnny Depp couldn't get any work, and Disney fired him from Pirates of the Caribbean and decided to reboot the series, and all of a sudden Amber Heard's career just blew up. She got into Aquaman and became a star, and it just seemed like an awful lot of coincidence. But at the same time, Johnny Depp admitted to having having drug problems and having money spending problems, but he fessed up for he took responsibility for his actions, and he wasn't throwing mud or slinging mud at her, but the whole time she was just trashing him and our society. You know, the way our society is, it's always the man's fault. And you know, it's kind of crazy because I actually went through the same exact situation with my first wife, and this is pretty much exactly the kind of stuff I went through. But what I wanted to make this video for is because I wanted to point out to you guys that this is exactly the type of toxic people that I've been talking about to you, that I've been telling you in previous videos that you need to remove from your life. You can't change someone else. And if you've listened to those recordings of Johnny Depp talking with her, where Johnny Depp keeps his voice calm and keeps trying to avoid conflict, and keeps telling her, you know, say it nicely, and the whole time she's, you know, dropping F-bombs and screaming and raising her voice and being extremely confrontational, and the whole time he's telling her, I don't want confrontation. You know, they're using the word fight. That's her upbringing, which has caused her to be this type of person. They're using the word fight, and they should not be using the word fight. In a healthy relationship, you don't fight, you disagree. You have discussions, you may debate, but you do not fight. You don't argue. You stay calm, you speak nicely and respectfully to each other, and you work together as a team. See, Amber Heard's perspective is that it's Johnny Depp versus her, and that is a failure. Every relationship will fail when you point yourself as when you see yourself as adversaries. You cannot see yourself as adversaries in a relationship. You must see yourselves as teammates, and the problem is the adversary. Life is the adversary. You're trying to figure out a way to work together to overcome the obstacle. You're not trying to figure out a way to overcome each other. So what I've been, and also if you guys watch my videos, if you like the stuff that I'm putting out, you know, I put a lot of diverse stuff out. I make short films, I make music. You know, I also make these personal development videos, and I do fitness videos and nutrition videos. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe. If you want to click the bell to get notifications, you can do that. But yeah, just it'd be great if you'd subscribe to the channel. So back to the topic. Amber Heard is extremely codependent. She's obviously been brought up by parents or by role models who were in abusive relationships. Basically, emotionally, Amber Heard is still 14 years old. She has not developed relationship-wise and emotion-wise and psychologically. She's not an adult. So she's in these tapes, she's telling Johnny Depp, well, every time we fight, you go away, you're a coward, this and that. Johnny Depp's doing the right thing. That is how you handle that type of situation. When somebody is instigating conflict, and you also notice in these tapes, every time Johnny Depp tries to actually address the situation, Amber Heard raises the conflict, raises her voice, starts cursing. No matter what he says, every time he says something, she tells him, no, that's not what we're talking about. They're not talking about anything. The problem is Amber Heard wants Johnny Depp to make her feel better. But that's not possible. Nobody can make you feel better. Only you can make yourself feel better. And Johnny Depp, being, 30 years older than Amber Heard, 20-something years older than Amber Heard, he had discovered that. He had learned that already. He'd been in previous abusive relationships, and he had learned how to interact in a healthy relationship. Amber Heard still had not learned that. And then Johnny Depp at one point said, I know you were treating me this way before the marriage, but I hope that after we got married, I hoped eventually, you would mature and this stuff would stop, but it got worse. And Amber Heard's telling him, oh, well, I get angry sometimes. I throw things sometimes. I hit you sometimes. Which is crazy because when she divorced him, when she was slandering him, she kept saying that she could never even speak to him or else he'd hit her and that he was extremely abusive and all these things. But the truth is, it was her. And then she's extremely manipulative. She's extremely codependent. She's overbearing. She's narcissistic. She's belligerent. And she's vindictive. And that's my first wife. And you have to learn these things, really. If you've never seen this, if you've never been in a relationship with this kind of person, and I'll tell you, this is what happened with my first wife. If you've never been in a relationship with this kind of person, you don't recognize it. You don't even understand it. You don't know what's going on. You just, in the beginning, if you love the person, you think, okay, well, I've got to do better. But you'll never do good enough. You'll never do good enough because they're not unhappy with you, they're unhappy with themselves. There's a hole inside of them because they don't understand life, they don't understand their psychology and their mentality, and they feel like it must be your fault, so you need to fix it for them. But the truth is, you can't fix anyone else, and no one else can fix you. It's hard enough to fix yourself. And that's what you have to do. You have to fix yourself. And when you get into a relationship with a toxic person like who Amber Heard was for Johnny Depp, you have to get out of that relationship. And unfortunately, society is set up against the man. I remember my first wife I went out to get a second job one time because my first wife wouldn't work. And she didn't want me to get a second job, but I needed to. And when I came home, my entire apartment was destroyed. I was about 21, 22 years old. All my furniture was destroyed. There were mirrors that we had on our wall. They were smashed all over the floor. The pots and the pans were all torn out of the cabinets, and dishes were thrown all over. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. She got physical with me, started punching me and stuff, tried to throw me out of an open second-story window. I called the police on her, and when the police came, they told me that we were being immature and that they were leaving, and if they had to come back, they were going to take me to jail. That's our society. This was in Maryville, Tennessee. That's the same society Johnny Depp lives in California, because she goes to court, tells the judge without evidence that Johnny Depp's this horrible bastard and he beats the shit out of her. And the judge's like, okay, yeah, you need to give her whatever. He gave her $100 million. Disney fires him. He hasn't worked since because he's a man. Because in our society, all these baby boomers need to get out of the way. Baby boomers are holding this country back so much, it's ridiculous. They've got all the power in this country, and their beliefs, they are caught in 100-year-old social beliefs that don't exist anymore. I see Joe Biden standing up in there talking about a man should never hit a woman. A man should never hit a woman. Hey, Joe, a man should never hit anybody. You don't need to hit. That's like primitive. You use your words. You learn how to control your emotions and how to control your mentality, and you use your words. And if using your words isn't good enough, if you cannot communicate with this person, like what was happening with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you remove yourself from the situation and you remove them from your life. And this is what I've been explaining to you guys in previous videos. This is the same. My mother is extremely codependent. My mother is extremely narcissistic, and it hurts very much to say these things, and I had to remove her from my life, because she's also extremely overbearing. And these are things that had developed in human psychology over however long. I don't know. I don't really, you know, the Christians believe we've been on Earth 5,000 years. Scientists believe we've been on Earth for millions of years. I don't remember when Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, I don't remember. But this is psychology that has developed through evolution for a long freaking time. Up until the industrial evolution, you had to be with your family. You needed that for safety, for security, for longevity. When you were born into your family or your village, that's where you stayed. You stayed there and you protected each other and you were there for each other constantly. But now, because of industrialization, it's not that way anymore. You basically can't, and I'm not saying whether this is good or bad, because I think in a lot of ways I would much rather have been able to spend my time living in a cabin in the woods, farming my own land, hunting for my food, and raising my sons, and spending every day with my children and my wife. I would have loved that. That would have been great. I would have enjoyed my life much more than chasing money, because that's what we've traded. We've traded family for stuff, and that's reality. So in the last 200 years, all of a sudden, rather than trying to figure out how to stay with your family and protect your family and keep your family in one spot, and, you know, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, you had land, and you and your wife and kids had a house, a cabin. You lived in that cabin. When your kids grew up, your son, he would get married, and he would either build himself a cabin on your land, or he would build himself a cabin on his wife's family's land, and your family stayed right there. You had generations of families living on the same plot of land. If you were rich, you had 10,000 acres. If you weren't rich, you had 200 acres. I mean, back then, even poor people had a lot of land, unless they congregated into the cities, and that was just a whole different situation. But most people stayed with their families for a long time, and that's why codependency developed. Codependency doesn't work anymore because now people have careers, and you can travel the whole planet now. You can go anywhere on Earth now, literally. 100 years ago, you couldn't. So you have to overcome all these years of evolution in order to be successful in today's world, and in order to have healthy relationships. And Amber Heard has found success off of Johnny Depp's back and destroying his life and his career. But the reality of the situation is she is an extremely broken human being, and she needs counseling, and she needs to read some personal development books, and she needs to recognize these deficiencies in herself, just like what I've been preaching to you guys. We have to be conscientious. What is that? Jordan Peterson uses that word. We have to be self-conscious. We have to be conscientious. We have to look inside of ourselves and look at it and be like, okay. Now, Amber Heard kept telling Johnny Depp in this video, well, I get angry sometimes. I throw things sometimes. I hit sometimes. You're a bitch. You're a coward. You know, all this. What she should have been saying is, how can I fix that about myself? I don't like treating him this way. I love him. He doesn't want to be treated this way. He doesn't like being treated this way. Every time I treat him this way, he leaves. How can I treat him better? How can I behave differently? But that's not what she was saying. What she was saying is, Johnny, you need to accept this, and you need to change, adapt to me. That's not how it works. If you want someone in your life, you need to adapt to them. If they're not happy with the way you act and the way you treat them, and you want them in your life, you need to adapt to them. If you don't want to adapt to them, then remove them. If someone's abusing you and treating you the way she was treating him, if you choose, like Johnny Depp did, to give them an opportunity to better themselves, that's your choice. It's your life. But you can't just stay in that situation. If they're not bettering themselves, if their behavior continues to go be that same negative, toxic behavior, or to even get worse, you have to remove them from your life. You cannot change anyone else. It is a full-time job changing yourself. You cannot change anyone else. If someone is toxic to you, you have to remove them. You absolutely must. So I just wanted to make this video because it's a prime example of what I've been saying in these previous videos. And now I have an example that a lot of people are seeing. So I thought that might help you guys understand a little bit. All right. Yep. Have a good one.